I started my career actually in 1996. I'm 100. So I started at Def Jam as an intern and worked my way through the ranks. I started off as an assistant to Kevin Liles, who was actually the president of the label at the time. And then I went on to become the publicist at a young age. I was, think, 26 years old. I was running the publicity department. Never did publicity before, but back then that's kind of what you did. You got a job and you learned it. I spent a couple years in publicity and then I moved up to video promotion, which at the time, video promotion was the marketing plan. Like BET, MTV, Rap City, 106 and Park, TRL, that's all there was. There was no internet. So being on TV was super important. And MTV and BET were the two hubs for music. So I oversaw the bookings to get the artist on MTV and BET. And then I became the general manager eventually. And I was there for pretty much the majority of my career. I was there for 15 years. Once I became the general manager, I got to a point where I just needed to take a break from the industry. I have 2 children, a husband, so I kind of wanted to get my self together and be a mom for a minute. And then I spent a year out of the game and went back in with my good friend, Kevin Liles, who was my first boss, who was, he has his own management company and was actually launching 300 Records with Leor Cohen and Todd Moskowitz at the time. So I thought I could do management and learned quickly that I could not do management with 2 children and 2 dogs and a husband. It was no way I was going to be able to be picking up phone calls at midnight and breastfeeding at the same time. So I was like, this isn't going to happen. But I helped Kevin. While I was in the management role, we had an artist who was signed to an independent label, which was Caroline Records. And at that time, I had never heard of, and I keep saying I never heard of it. I heard of independent records. I just didn't know what they meant and what they offered. So while I was in the doing management for this independent artist, I fell in love with this system. It was a system that allowed you to quickly put records up, quickly put your product out. It didn't matter how many artists were signed to the label like it does at a major, because obviously if there's 20 stars signed and you're a new act, it's really hard for you to get put into the pipeline unless you have a record that's exploding. So there were no complaints in the indie world. I used to call being a GM the complaint department, because that's all they did was complain about Def Jam. So I was like, let me get out of this role. And this indie role was a space that I fell in love with. So I went from management to E1 Records, which E1 is a truly independent label. There is no major behind it. It's solely owned by the company Entertainment One, which it used to be Koch Records. So I really learned how to function in the indie space. I understood the deal structure. I understood the acts that made sense in that space. So all of that kind of groomed me into being in this world and being able to compete in this world. So while I was there, my good friends at Def Jam, who used to be at Def Jam with me, Julie Greenwald and Mike Kaiser, actually called me and they were like, we have this amazing role that we think you'd be great for, and we want you to come in and revamp Asylum, which is the independent arm of the Warner Music Group. So it was like the perfect job offer for me, because it kind of brought the 2 worlds together, because I am a label major label girl. Clearly, I was there for 100 years, and everything that I didn't love about it, there is a cachet that comes along with it. And then the indie arm of it is giving the artist the fluidity to just get their product out. It's quick and nimble. There's not a lot of red tape. We know how to move the product through quickly. So it was like the blend of these 2 worlds were like the dream job. So I said yes, and I took the job, and I've been there for 2 years now, 2.5 years now.
Amazing, Gabby. Thank you so much. And with all of your experience and everything you've put into the music industry, what have been some of the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
So, it's super interesting that you asked that, because you would think that in a business like this, that there would be more support for women in the music industry. And you quickly realize as you go through the years that it's not so much what you would think it was, because it is a male-dominated business. And if you're a woman who is dedicated to having a family and a career, I don't know if the music industry 100% would be the safe place to go. And the only reason why I felt like I could do it was because Julie Greenwald at the time was my boss at Def Jam, and she did it. She made it normal. She made it like you can have it all. You just have to figure out how. Like, I watched her get pregnant twice, have kids, run a company, be a wife, like still be at all the shows, still be at all the, and I was like, it can happen. And I guess if you don't witness it, it's a scary thought, because there's some girls who are like, if I get pregnant and I go out the game for a minute, what if I get fired? What if somebody replaces me? And you're like, if you let that grab your mind for too long, you miss your opportunity to have a baby, because the years creep up on you real quick. You know what I'm saying? You look up and you're old. So you don't have all those years to make the decision if you want to have a kid. You got to make those decisions while you still can have a kid. So for me, that was a really tough challenge. I just did it with blinders on. I was like, fuck it. If I get fired, I get fired, but I'm having a family. I don't want to be old and not have a family one day and be like, what did I do all this for? So it was tough.
Right. And what are some of the things that kind of got you through that tough point, or that you used to set boundaries to help you maintain that family balance while also working?
Well, I experienced some things at work that really upset me to the point where it made me lean on my family even more. There were moments where I felt so defeated by the fact that there were women in the building who just were not supportive of any opportunity that came up for me. For example, and I won't say names, but when I was approached to become the general manager, L.A. Reid is by far one of the most amazing music execs that I've ever worked for. L.A. was always about, get your money. What do you need? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Grow, grow, grow. That was LA's thing. I loved working underneath him. I felt comfortable. I was very clear with him when he came to Def Jam. He was like, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm like, married with kids. He's like, of course. I'm like, sorry you asked. That's where I want to be. But when I got to the point of pushing out my second kid, he said to me, do you want to be the general manager? And I was really afraid, because I didn't know how to be a GM. I was the head of video promo at the time. And I was like, I don't really want the title. Why don't you give it to this girl? She didn't want it. Why don't you give it to this other girl? She didn't want it either. Okay, so if those two girls didn't want it, fuck it. Let me try it, but I don't want the title. I just want to learn the gig. So there wasn't so much pressure on me. And those two women hated on it so badly that it was like, damn, I wasn't expecting it to be females. I was expecting the backlash to come more from my male counterparts, but it didn't. It came from these two women, and I was so it turned me into I'm obviously have a mouth on me, and I'm a fighter more than I am the person to coward. But this made me be like, fuck, that shit. Like I'm always making sure I'm looking back and raising up who's underneath me and teaching them how to be a better executive women. Like I'm a girl's girl. Like I'm going to teach you the ropes. This is what we're good. You're going to learn my job. Every single one of my assistants I've promoted, every single one of them came up underneath me. I promoted them. And then they went on to do amazing things. I've never had to fire an assistant. They've all been promoted up underneath me, taught them my job. My assistants are on my calls. My assistants are a part of my day-to-day. It's more than just them scheduling my calls. So I always felt like, you know, I would be so supported in this role, and I wasn't. And it was I was devastated. It fucked with me on a daily basis. And I like went this extra mile all the time to like prove that I could be like good enough for the job. And then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hang out with my husband, who's in the music industry, by the way, and worked at Def Jam with me. And just, I focused on balancing my life because I was like, why am I giving all of it to this place that doesn't appreciate it? I come home with a headache. I'm being miserable to my kids because I'm so stressed out. So I just made the decision at that time, like, this is what's important. These two kids that I brought into the world, I want to make sure that I raise them and teach them how to be amazing human beings, which isn't going to happen if I come home and I'm constantly like, shut the fuck up. I'm busy. You know, I had to like get my shit together and be like, when you're home, these are your kids, this is your life. And when you're at work, you leave that at home and you go to work. So it was hard. And I struggled with it for a really long time because nobody talks about it in the music industry. Nobody talks about it. There's no other women. There's not a lot of women who have families and husbands that are in the business. So I did surround myself around other girls who had kids because they understood, you know, so it was helpful to have those couple of examples to get me through it.
Wow, that's an amazing story, Gabby. And who knows how many women have watched you do it and now they think to themselves, I saw Gabby do it, so it's possible.
Yes, for sure.
That's the important thing, right? At the end of the day. Well, I know you have some amazing artist stories over the years. Who have been some of your favorite artists to work with or favorite projects that you've been on?
So I think for me, you know, the thing for me is I'm a professional. So, you know, when you work in a field where your job is to make sure that your relationships are good on the outside, just as much as in the inside, which is a publicist or a video promo person. Working with Jay-Z kind of was, I'd say Jay was the most inspiring artist to work with because he was a professional. Before Jay he doesn't make that line up. He is a businessman who knows how to rap. Period. End of story. That is the realest shit ever. Like, of course he's an artist, but he understood, be on time, be professional. He would walk into a room, greet everybody with a smile, shake everybody's hand. Such a nice guy. If he said yes, it was yes. So he would not say, if I was like, listen, do you want to do TRL on Thursday? He wouldn't say, yes, I'll do it. And then wake up Thursday morning with an excuse and be like, oh, I can't, or we can't find him, or we're driving to his house to be like, come outside, you have to be on TV in fucking an hour. You know what I'm saying? It was like, this is my business. I'm going to take it seriously. And then he became the president of our company after we worked together. You know what I mean? Like, I was his publicist for years, and then he became my boss, which was so crazy. But, you know, he understood both worlds, and he was just a joy to work with. And Ludacris is another artist who, just another doll baby who just understood this is a business, always thought with the right side of his brain. Like, artist to the left, but over here is the businessman, so professional. And you see with artists that understand this business where they are today and how they've flourished into the business world and what it meant for them to go from taking their artistry into these multi-million-dollar businesses. So, so for me, it was like Jay and Ludacris. I were like Ja Rule. My heart loved Ja. Ja was the fucking bomb. Neo, Doll Baby, like such a professional. Kanye was like my brother. Kanye is just an artistic guy, and learned so much working with Kanye. Jay-Z to Doll Baby, like, so I've had so many close relationships with them. Rihanna, one of the most amazing girls on the fucking planet, just business girl. Again,
she has flourished into the business world too. Huh?
Always on time, always with a smile, always shaking everybody's hand, never said no to a picture. Like Justin Bieber, same thing. Justin, obviously, his mother was around in the beginning, and his manager, Scooter Braun, just taught them the basics. It was about the basics, and those artists are still here and are testaments till today. So I've had some great experiences with some really great artists and managers.
Yeah. And what do you think have been some key either personality traits or business moves on the side of artists that make them have that longevity, those careers that are longer than just like a moment of viralness?
I mean, listen, it's the authenticity now that you can't, there's no way to contain it now, because these kids can get hits on their own. So it's everything that you needed to be before, you don't need to be now. So it's only the testament of time that changes what happens for the longevity of an artist now. Now is, can you come up with number two? Are you able to sell out a venue because you can actually perform on stage? Because we know you made this record, but now can you perform? Do you know how to sing? Can you dance? Because we got to get you up to speed on your hit and make sure that you're actually a star. So it's changed. This right now is catching up. We're catching up. And then you'll see the difference between an artist who really has all the makings of somebody who's really creative, somebody who knows how to make real records, somebody who knows how to actually get on a stage and put on a great show. So that's what will always remain in being a star and having longevity. You actually have to be a creative. You can't fuck around and get one hit and think there's longevity there. You have to have the makings, and nothing's changed about that fact. You still have to be on time. You still have to be professional. You still have to be able to get to where you're going on time. Obviously you need all of the fundamentals of being able to make records, being able to perform, but the professional artists who don't show up to a radio station or a studio session with 30 people, like, you can't travel and get on a plane with 15 people. Like, that's not professional. Race car drivers, basketball players, people that you don't travel with that many people. Like, that's not professional. So you can see the ones who come from teams who understand how to make this an easy way for themselves into the business, and the ones that are like, this isn't gonna last much longer.
Right. And can you build a star, or do they have to already have that in them?
Say that one more time.
Can you build a star? Can you mold someone into having that star power, or do they already have to have it in them?
I mean, listen, this is the thing too. Like, we have this conversation all the time. Back in the day, before the internet, you could build a star because there was no double checking to see if you ever did it before, if there was a bad performance somewhere, if you don't have any Instagram followers, if you don't have any YouTube subscribers. Like, back in the day, the masters of building artists, Puffy, Irv Gotti, Tommy Mottola, you could do that. You just needed some pretty girls, good voice, but the longevity that you need to succeed in this art, in the world of artistry, are people who actually write records, who actually know how to produce their own vocals. Mariah Carey, that's why Mariah's been around forever. That's why Mariah always, you know, makes comments about folks who don't write their own records. And she makes those comments like, yeah, I actually have to go in the studio and write it. Then I have to produce it. Like, that's why she doesn't need to wait for anybody to write her a record. Because the minute you get cold, the best writers in the game are not giving you their hits. They're going to give their hits to the new hot chick or the new hot guy. So if you can't write the record yourself, then you're going to go on a longer list the colder you get. So Chris Brown writes his own records. Usher, you see these album after album after, because they're writing their own music. So you see
that is a big factor.
Right. For sure.
Great. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for being here. We just ask one more piece of advice from you. What is one statement you would like to leave young women with who want to get to where you are?
So I would say, you know, the one thing that I always think about in my career is, I wish if I could change one thing, it was that I didn't let people get under my skin so easily and turn me into one day being the fun, funny, laugh, haha girl, to being somebody who was always ready to fight because somebody said something disrespectful to me, or somebody made a comment that I didn't like. And now millennials, they're more sensitive than we were back then. So it's easy for me to say to them now, you know, let that roll off your shoulder. Don't get so down on yourself. Try to just remember that this is just for them. It's their whole life and their managers' whole lives. And like inside the building, if you're not getting along with somebody, try to find the positive side to make it better. Like if I could do it all over again, those would be the things that I would tell my younger self now. And what I always tell the girls that I work with, and even the guys that I work with now, like, we are doing our best. Period. And as long as you're doing your best and you come to work every day and you're trying and you're positive and you're on your job and you're organized and you're professional, all that other shit is going to continue to happen. Things are always going to go wrong. There's always going to be some asshole that we're going to have to work with. There's always going to be something that's going to get you off of your game. The only way to avoid that is to center yourself back to why you do this. It's for the love of music. It's for the love of artists. It's for helping other people grow up underneath us. And we got to just continue. Younger girls, younger guys in this business, you have to continue to stay focused on what you love and be the best at it.
Wow, that is amazing, Gabby. Really powerful. One last thing also, what do you look for in a mentee? I know you love to bring other women and everyone up from under you. What do you look for in somebody when you know you want to help bring them up in their career?
You know, for me, it's definitely nowadays, for me, organization is super important. Like there's so many things coming at us at once now. It's such a fast-paced world. It's faster paced than it was when I came up in the game. So now it's just, I always focus on candidates who are creatives, because you do have to be a little bit creative to be in the music industry. Like it's always good to find somebody who knows how to dress, has a good eye for just like things that look pretty or things that need to be, you know, change that shirt, put on a different color makeup, put on a different. So it's good to have that, but you have to be organized. And Olivia, for me, positive attitudes.
Yeah.
Now, somebody with a positive attitude with me who can take criticism. And if you fucked up and I'm like, look, this is what you did wrong. Here's how you fix it. And that person is like, got it. I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. And it's just positive about making the change. Those are the ones that know, because I'm telling you, there's so much going on that you're going to make a mistake. If you don't make a mistake, how do you learn? You have to make mistakes. You know what I mean? But it's how do you get over the mistake? Is it going to fuck up your whole day, or are you going to take it and go, got it, saw what I did wrong, I'm moving on to the next. What we got next? What's our next project? You know what I mean? So I'm always looking for the kids that know how to get over the hump instead of getting stuck on the hump, because then I don't know what to do for you. You just stuck.
You've gotten over so many humps yourself, huh?
Girl, that's the thing. You just, like I said, you got to wake up in the morning and you have to start all over again. You have to act like yesterday didn't even happen, and you have to wake up in the morning and go, today is a brand new day, and I'm going to look at this as a new day to do it better than I did yesterday. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be humps. There's always going to be blocks in the road. It's just going to freaking happen. You just have to learn how to get around them.
Wow, what a piece of advice to leave us with. Thank you so much, Gabby. Thank you for being on Boss Talks. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Olivia. It was so nice to talk to you.